I think this turned out quite nice. God, this is a big build. This is a long boy. Today's board, the Wind Xlice. I have to admit, I've been looking forward to this one. However, the price of this one kind of shocked me a little bit because I'm not used to Wind Studios having more of a premium side of things. So this was a little out of the blue. This one here is about 400 US to start. It's very cool though. It is a unique board. It comes in a Southpaw or regular. It's an Alice with a numpad. They shipped it with this accessory box. And here's the thing. I don't know how much of a market there is for something like this, but I'm glad it's being made. Ooh. This is a fun shape. Cool. I've already had a few people actually reach out to me about this board because they're like super interested in getting it made, but I'll tell you something I'm already really happy about. Wind Studios, I feel like never gives us good packaging. Like it's always like just okay. Usually just a hard shell case, if anything, like sometimes. But I feel like they kind of went over the top for this. Oh, that's a nice shape actually. This is a really nice shape. You know, Wind Studios has actually been, they've been kind of killing it lately with stuff. I really like the aesthetic of this. A nice coating on this. Coating looks good. I like the aesthetic here on the bottom. I like the feet they're using. They're branded feet too, which is kind of cool. They're adhesive, it looks like. Yeah, these don't come off. So we have some branded feet. It does say Wind Studio there. See if it focuses for the camera. So nice. I like this. This is cool. And I'm assuming this is a strip of brass. It's not overly heavy. It does have some weight to it. And then we have a badge here in the front, which they offer some customization for this too. I think from my perspective, I don't know, this is going to be very, very biased. But I think at this point here, I like when brands do something with the internals. Not just a design. I'm not talking about just some fancy design for the inside. I've been really liking these stepped internals. I feel like sound profile wise, it only helps the keyboard. So usually with expensive keyboards now, I am seeing more of that, you know, more ridges or edges inside the board. It's not the end of the world. Again, this is not really a critical take, but I'm saying I usually prefer it. Yeah, like the heights can be varied on the inside. We've had great sounding keyboards with completely flat aluminum internals too, so. Very, very low front height as well. Actually, I am curious to see what this front height measures. 18.7. Not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. How's the side profile look? Oh, that's cool. Okay, pretty basic. I would say this is pretty no frills. Has some sort of design to it, but it's not like, to me, this isn't like the be all and end all. Group buy is going to be from July 10th, which is in tomorrow, to July 27th. A bunch of different vendors, Divinity Key. Vietnam will be Keep Store. Australia will be Switch Keys. Love Switch Keys. Pantheon Keys for Singapore. Japan will be Bass Keys. Also like Bass Keys. Indonesia will be Kuki Studio. And then Europe will be Key Jam. And then Taiwan will be InPad. I have never heard of InPad. And then you're going to get inside the box a top case, bottom case, aluminum badge, weight bar, PCB, plate, foam kit, accessories bag, and alu carrying case. Actually, I have a question for you guys. Are you guys more partial in receiving the aluminum case or just the hard shell regular schmegular case? I am quite curious to see what the answer is here. As someone who moved a couple of times, I'll always take the more sturdy case. That's super fair though. That's honestly super fair. Okay, what do we got in here? Yes, please. You know, I love when brands do this. Even if you're going to do one online and you just have some sort of like QR code or you're going to have like a video, but I like this. Fancy instructions. Yeah, it tells you everything here. This is good. You can do the leaf mount or the top mount. I'm curious what the leaf spring mount is going to sound like in this. I think that's what I'll start with. They sent us like literally everything. Even brass. Damn. Brass plate on an Alice sounds wild. Cool. Foam kit. Oh, it is a hot swap PCB. I was curious about that. They never told me. All right, and then we got everything else in here. So they nicely organized. When you have a bajillion different things that come with your keyboard, I think a small label on the bag goes such a long way. I like having labeled things. All right, so it looks like we don't get a bunch of layout options with the hot swap. It looks a bit more minimal. The only change here they have is the spacebar from the prototype will be different. Can the numpad be on the right? You can buy it so it's on the right. There's a normal and a southpaw version of this, which I appreciate. Actually, you know what? There's some good colors here too. I wish they had sent me a different color other than the cream. The cream is nice, but they also have red, green, blue, black, e-white, and cream. But they also have like a brass and copper bottom, which can raise the price from $400 to $511. So if you want, actually that's kind of nice though. If you want the all out copper bottom and brass bottom, it's a premium, but you can do it. But that does look cool. All right, so I'm a little confused here. Why did we get a bajillion amazing options for the hot swap PCB here? But then on the numpad, I feel like they just said, F it, and they said, you're only getting one fixed layout. It would have been cool to get both layouts for this. I mean, you get lots here, tons. Split backspace. No ISO on this, but you do get split right. Or I guess it comes standard, but you get some other options here. Oh, for arrows. This is the arrow one. I actually, you know what? I like the arrows personally. At first, I was skeptical about how much I liked arrows on these particular keyboards, but I like them. You can just build it without, just as an FYI, but I like it with the arrows. The few times I've built boards like this, I usually build them now with the arrow keys. And then you also get split left and step caps lock. I would say pretty good hot swap PCB on this. I wish this was a little bit more diverse. I wish I could build numpad stuff on the left, you know what I mean? I'm not even talking about splitting. I just wish that they gave us the option to go like full southpaw on this guy, like they do on the solder PCB. All right, I think that's really all we need to do for here. Actually, let's put on the gaskets there. So the diffusers slot in here, kind of like we see on the Owl Labs boards. LED diffusers are in. Let's put on our leaf spring silicones. So this is two mounting styles, either top or leaf spring. I think I want to try this today. Ooh, okay. First disappointing thing about this board, Phillips screws. And they're small Phillips screws too. I hope they end up changing the screws. All right. So let's install these leaf springs. And it tells us for the leaf springs, fix the leaf springs to the bottom case. Okay, and there's a direction they need to go in. So I need to follow this direction of leaf springs here. A lot of ribbon cables though. However, everything's separate, so it's not like you're gonna have to fiddle with everything, which is nice. So these are carbon fiber. So essentially like a fiberglass-ish material for the leaf springs here. Oh, it gets put on here, not on that inside piece. Oh, that makes more sense. So they go on the edges here. Silly me. I was looking kind of at the wrong thing on the picture. Okay, so you can kind of tell where they go. It's these little standoff pieces. And this just slots in. Nice. I actually really like the Xlice. Glad to see Wind and their sub-brand of Daring Run putting out unique layouts. You know, it's not even so much the unique layouts. They're actually doing a really good job with like styling these boards too. I feel like if these weren't styled the way they were, they'd be a bit of a boring release. Although I do wish these screws were A, magnetic, and B, not Phillips. We are done putting this together. Now keycaps. I think this turned out quite nice. God, this is a big build. I like the shape of everything here. This is like just the actual board itself. I feel like it has a bunch of good points to it too. Like it shape-wise is nice. Apparently there's a wrist rest you can get with this too. I like the fact you can buy this in either southpaw or regular for those who enjoy southpaw. What I didn't care for was the screws. That's really about it. I do wish they added some more into the internals as well. For the price point, like the $400 price point minimum, I wish. But it's a good looking keyboard overall. Like even the back, it does look pretty. The keycap set is looking really good on this. I don't know if I would personally spring for $511 for the copper or brass bottom, but you may differ on that. And I would also 100% go with the soldered version on this, just to get the different layouts on the numpad. Actually, that was the other one small miss as well on this board. The numpad, I feel like, felt very fixed compared to the options that you get on the rest of the keyboard for hot swap. For $400, like when you really try to quantify the $400 for this board, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm losing the plot a little bit on this too. Like $400 is definitely expensive. I don't quite know why it's $400. When you look at even some of the machining for $400, I kind of want the extra oomph on the internals. Maybe this piece costs it something to produce here, maybe. But there's nothing really complex looking about the machining here. Nothing too crazy complex. Maybe they're just trying to cash out on the the layout being not so common, I suppose. But again, you know what? I will give him credit. The finishing on everything is really pretty. I'll give him that there, but it is nice looking on that specific degree here. Again, I would like to know why it's $400. Maybe there's a good reason, maybe there's not. Let's type on it first. We'll talk about it a little bit. I don't love the way this sounds with the backspace, but I feel like there's not much I can really do. This sounds good. This sight sounds good. If this can mimic this, and I feel like this is even just me showing this in 2U, might sound different than a 2.25U. I really wish they added more to the internals here. I feel like alphas are there. They're a bit bland. And I know how these NK switches sound. Like, it's there. I can tell they're almost there. I feel like if they did some more, because this is an all aluminum internal, like there's no pass-through for anything for the extra material to kind of like do its thing, and there's no ridges for things to bounce differently. You know, I would definitely say I feel a little bit thin on this. Pretty sure this board's designed for foam use. Yeah, it's totally fair. If people want to build it with foam, I'm sure people will get a foamier or maybe a slightly fuller sound signature. But I kind of am always one to think like, okay, well, what if I don't want to build it with foam? They're obviously giving us the option here to put foam in. Alphas are okay. Hard to tell with the space bars. They sound okay though. Again, Alice space bars, I've never been like over the moon about with any Alice. Maybe there's like been 2. I'd say sound profile is okay. I like the feeling of the board. I think they did a good job with the feeling here on the leaf spring. Although, to be extra critical about the leaf spring, I've definitely felt better variations of leaf spring. I don't even, if I'm being real, I wouldn't even call this a leaf spring board. The way that we installed everything was basically, not FR4, but carbon fiber. So fiberglass material basically that's screwed into and sitting on posts. And there is some space for the fiberglass material, so the carbon fiber to kind of move up and down and kind of seesaw, but realistically, I don't foresee that happening with how thick those were and just the weight of how people type normally. I would consider this kind of like an extra step gasket. It feels good for that because you're putting gaskets on the end of your plate anyways. So it does feel good for that reason. Like, it's not a bad feeling, but definitely it's more reminiscent of a gasket. I wouldn't call this like a true leaf spring in my opinion. I feel like there could have been a better way to design that. I like the shape of the board a lot. I like some of the embellishments they put on the board a lot. It's a toughie at $400 though. It is a toughie at $400. Overall though, the product looks good. They did a really good job with the overall design on this. I like it. Some people might say this is too plain. I think it's perfect. Design-wise, this is exactly something I would normally like. I'm just a little bit hard stuck on the $400 price point for this. I wish this was like, if this was even like $330 or $340, I'd feel better. I think anything sub $350, I would have felt better on this. And even $511 for the all brass bottom, that kind of makes more sense. But for me, again, $450 for that would have made more sense. Unless they're betting on this being a really low MOQ. That is my only other thing I can think of. Is maybe they're like, yeah, this won't sell well, and we're kind of placing bets on like 50 to 100 units type thing. Overall, I don't think you'd be disappointed if this interests you, but it definitely does cost a pretty penny. If the Compact Ergo was on the market right now, I'd probably pick up the Compact Ergo instead. And then if you didn't care for the numpad, but just like the shape of something like this, maybe think of the Boomerang. Maybe the Boomerang is something you can pick up, because I think those are still in stock. And how much are the Boomerangs right now? They're a decent price, right? A lot of options with the Boomerang too. Let's see. Boomerang keyboard. Yeah, 340. Maybe less. Yeah, 340. Yeah. Agreed on the price note, 100%. Yeah, it's a toughie. It's a toughie. This might be, again, I like the board. it does sound nice. It does have a few things, minor things I wish they'd change. But right now it's a bit tough at the $400 price point. Like, I don't know if I'd pick this up at $400. What would you want to see added to get the value up? I would change the internal system. Not the mounting, but the bottom of the keyboard, like the internal bottom. I think that needs the biggest like facelift. I feel like if this had kind of like, again, we were talking about putting those ridges in and just adding maybe an area where the weight can pass through, give it some diversity of like ridges and textures and materials in there. That would help with the sound profile. I feel like feel a little bit less flat. What would have been nice with this is maybe a better overall system on how everything got put in. Like maybe instead of using ribbon cables, maybe something a bit more presumed fancier, like pogo pins would have been nice on the value side there. I do wish they went with a larger, not that weights matter at the end of the day, but this is a pretty simple board. I do wish maybe they did a brass weight in a larger fashion, like maybe extending the brass weight to be a bit bigger, you know, or even just thicker and then again passing through the bottom of the keyboard. But as of right now, like it's like I said, it's not the heaviest feeling keyboard in the world. Even if they did that stuff with the weight and like all the stuff I'm telling you guys right now, I don't even know if that's a $400 board for me still. I still feel like I'd feel more comfortable subs 350. Even with all the changes and like my opinions, I feel like at the end of the day, I would still say sub 350. I'm not super sold on this for $400. Like I said, I still like it. I appreciate the design, but I don't know. This might be the first toughie we've had in a while. Just to make sure this is subjective. Maybe this is the exact layout you want. I haven't really seen a whole hell of a lot of keyboards with this exact layout. Maybe this is worth your $400 just for that. Maybe this is like, all right, hell yeah, I gotta have this thing for this particular price point. Maybe this is like the thing you need. So, was really excited for this board. Yeah, it sounds just okay. Again, I ignore the 2U. This is something we kind of have to deal with on this board just because the prototype's done wrong, but they acknowledged the prototype's done wrong. Bye everyone, love you, and see you later.